Hey now! How you doing, friends? It is Wednesday, July 22nd. Today's episode of Scott Fox After 9, and thank you for downloading. Today's episode is basically a continuation of yesterday's episode because there is so much news happening in real time related to the latest threat of tariffs from the U.S. government and the Canadian response. Very convenient that all the premiers are meeting right now in PEI, and you're going to hear from a number of those premiers on this episode of the pod. You're also going to hear again from President Trump, and first, though, I want to go to our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, yesterday in Ottawa. Listen to this.
As many of you know, yesterday the United States announced the intention in 30 days to launch the latest, what is a series of trade actions against Canada in violation of our agreement, CUSMA, with the United States and Mexico. And I want to put this in a bit of perspective, then answer a couple questions. The first is that in response to these actions, this began over 18 months ago, Canadians from coast to coast to coast have stood together. The federal government, provincial government, Labour, business, Canadians themselves, uniting, focusing on what we can control, building strength here at home, supporting each other, buying Canadian.
I want to point out, before the Prime Minister goes any further, we were very seriously misled over the last 18 months. While the Prime Minister talks about Canadians coming together and buying Canadian, the Canadian government isn't doing that in a lot of cases. When it comes to building, we haven't actually built anything. Just so everybody's clear, we've been gaslit a lot.
And diversifying partnerships abroad. We've signed more than 20 economic and security partnerships internationally. Investment. Machinery and equipment's picking up, economy's picking up. We're growing jobs at twice the rate in the United States. We're the fastest growth in foreign direct investment, investor confidence in Canada in over 2 decades, twice the rate of other countries. In the G7, we're projected to have the second fastest growth in the G7, not just this year, but next year going forward. So the country is stronger. We're stronger because we're united, and we will remain united. I will be speaking with the premiers later this afternoon. I'll be meeting with them tomorrow. Minister LeBlanc will convene the Canada-U.S. Advisory Council later this afternoon. Earlier this morning, and I would say as well that throughout this time we have made a series of comprehensive and detailed proposals about how to modernize CUSMA, recognizing the transition that the U.S. is underway in the international and all its trading relationships, including with Canada and Mexico. I spoke with President Trump earlier this morning. We agreed to intensify negotiations in the coming weeks, and the team and myself look forward to doing that. As always, Canadians, governments, business, Labour will stand together to build Canada strong and to have a trading relationship with our North American partners that benefits everyone.
Okay, before we get to the Q&A, the Prime Minister giving you a little summary of his day. I'm going to pause. Before I get to the Prime Minister taking questions from the media, I want to play something for you. He said that Minister LeBlanc was going to convene the Canada-U.S. Relations Council, and he did yesterday. One of the people that's on that council is my former member of Parliament and someone who I like a lot, probably the best Prime Minister that we never had, Lisa Raitt, former deputy leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. Lisa was on CBC yesterday talking to David Cochrane. I think it's important that Canadians hear what Lisa, who is a member of the Canada-U.S. Relations Council, at the invitation of Prime Minister Carney. I think we should hear what she has to say. Listen to this.
So if the key leverage points that have been identified aren't available to the Prime Minister without enormous domestic blowback, how do you do it?
You go back to the table like they were prior to October of last year and exchanging proposals on what we want to accomplish in a comprehensive trade deal. It's not a case where we're threatening one another consistently. First principles, David, the United States has made it clear to the world that they are renegotiating every trade deal that they're part of, and that part of their toolkit is to have a tariff. The question is, how much of a tariff does Canada want to pay? We're not going to be able to get what we had expected in terms of CUSMA to have free trade on absolutely everything. What's the number going to be? That is the negotiation that we should be having at this point in time. And I think that's the negotiation that Janice Charette and that Dominic LeBlanc are seized with, quite frankly. Let's not let these 29 days go to waste because we're trying to figure out whether or not our premiers are going to have a bun fight at the end. I don't like this line of discussion whatsoever. Let's focus. And those small and medium companies, they're not going to hang around waiting to figure out whether or not we can hold on for another 3 years of Donald Trump. They're going to make their decisions today financially as to whether or not they're going to close up shop or move to the United States. I mean, these are serious matters, and we got 29 days to fix this. And I say we make a good shot at it and forget about the rest. Forget the noise. Stop making political points on this stuff.
Well said from Lisa Raitt. Hey, there are some politicians, and I'm not going to make any direct accusations right here, but I think anybody who watches any news coverage is going to see it. There are some politicians who, for various reasons, do not want to get a deal done with America. Some of those politicians like the fight with Donald Trump. They know, boomers in particular, hate Donald Trump. They think they're earning political favor here in Canada by not wanting to deal with Donald Trump. But the reality is, as Lisa just laid out, we need to get a deal done with Donald Trump. And it's really just a matter of how much longer we want to drag this out. Well, let's see if we can get some answers to that. Here is Prime Minister Carney taking questions from the media.
Provinces put booze back on the shelves. Will that help with these negotiations?
It's part of a broader... The provinces individually took those decisions in response to a series of tariffs that were put in place, and also threats to our sovereignty. Those measures have been supported by provincial citizens, and they're supported, and it's indicative in terms of other consumption habits, if I can put it that way, of Canadians, where Canadians have traveled. Other things that are on the shelves but aren't being purchased. The decision to change that, first and foremost, will be taken by the provinces themselves, each individually, and should only be taken, in my judgment, as part of an overall agreement. And that's what we'll work to accomplish.
Prime Minister Carney there doubling down on it's not my fault that the provinces banned the booze. The premiers at some point decided we're going to take American liquor off the shelves. That'll piss them off. And yeah, it did. It pisses them off because they never banned our booze. That's something that I personally have been opposed to from the start. I don't think government should be making those kind of decisions and leveraging a monopoly that they have. And we're not supposed to be in favor of monopolies here, are we? Well, they have a monopoly on booze sales, and one guy in each province has decided, or girl, I guess. No, I think it's all men. One person in each province has decided for millions of people, I don't like Donald Trump, so you can't have Jack Daniels. You can't have Napa wine. You can't have this, that, or the other thing. I don't think that's right. There's lots of things that our government has as leverage in negotiations with the Americans. I don't think they should be making that decision on behalf of the people. But they did it, and the Prime Minister is now hiding from it. It's the Premier's decision. I can't interfere there. If the Prime Minister asked Doug Ford or Wab Kinew or David Eby, who have all said, we are not giving up our booze ban, no American liquor on the shelves. If the Prime Minister says to them, the only way I'm going to be able to get a deal done here is if you guys put the booze back on the shelves. Is Carney the bad guy there, or are the premiers the bad guy there if they don't do it? Or are they a bad guy if they do it? I'm really curious to see where this is going. I personally don't think we're going to get very far while that booze ban is on the table. That is something that the American people know that we are doing, and they don't like it, even if they sympathize with Canada.
Minister, were you caught off guard? You recently made concessions in regards to the Gordie Howe Bridge. You rolled back the Digital Services Tax, the Online Streaming Act. Are you going to make more concessions in order to get the Americans to the table?
We're at the table. We'll be having those more intense discussions. And, you know, what the issue has been for us has been a comprehensive agreement. We understand the U.S. approach to strategic sectors, what they call strategic sectors. They are strategic sectors, but under their definition, 232 definitions, that's aluminum, that's forest products, that's steel, that's automobiles, pharmaceuticals, copper, others. But those first four being the most important for the Canadian economy. And that we don't want a partial agreement. We want something that addresses those sectors as well, so that there's a viable approach going forward. In our view, and the view of Madame Sheinbaum and the Mexican authorities, there are solutions that evolve, Kuzma, so that those sectors are globally competitive to the benefit of workers. Of course, we're working for workers in Canada first and foremost, but also workers across the other two economies.
I don't know exactly what he was saying there, other than we want a comprehensive deal. As far as I know, the deal will be comprehensive when it's done, just like USMCA was, and that protected 85% of our exports to America. Is it going to be a similar deal to that? Or is there going to be other things involved? Are we going to trade one sector for another? For example, to hang on to supply management, will the Prime Minister sacrifice our auto industry in Ontario? I'm curious to see where this is going.
Prime Minister, did you mislead Canadians on the bridge deal? Did you mislead Canadians, sir?
Well, you didn't get an answer to that one because the Prime Minister walked away when he was asked about the Gordie Howe bridge deal. It's now published in Canadian publications as well, the deal. What the Prime Minister told the Canadian people it was that we'll split the profits, basically, after the bridge is paid off and the operating costs are factored in. That's what the Prime Minister told us. Now, any Canadian can see plain as day, now that the deal is out, that's not what it is. We're going to split net revenue for 15 years. We're not getting any extra credit right now for the fact that we paid to build the bridge. We did a bad deal. The Prime Minister misled Canadians on that. And every Canadian should be deeply concerned that he thought he could get away with that and keep the deal private. I believe it was Bloomberg in America that ended up publishing the deal. Very, very frustrating and very sneaky there. Hey, before I go any further, just a little thing. Why is the audio so bad lately when the Prime Minister speaks? You hear the mic cutting out. Sometimes it's off mic. I don't understand. He's the Prime Minister of a G7 country. Surely to God, we can get him some good audio-visual people. Why is the microphone cutting out when our Prime Minister is speaking about a national emergency? They got to fix that. Now, friends, I want to switch gears. I want to go in a different direction, not on topic, but I want to give you a different range of audio. One of the things that I've been trying to explain in the pod over the last few days is that I feel it. The attitude about Canada amongst Americans is starting to evolve. At first, many of them felt very sympathetic for us. They agreed with us that we were being attacked, and you don't do that to your neighbor. Now they're starting to get that there's a trade imbalance, and the White House has done a very good job at sending out people to get that message out to the American people. Let's go to last night, CNN.
Now, the president issued some paper today, the White House did. You can look at it at the White House website. The areas he was really concerned about were motor vehicles, alcohol, and dairy. And I think they do make a pretty compelling case that the Canadians have unfairly singled out those industries in the United States for unfair trade practices. That is the stated reason for the tariffs today. Now, going on in the background here is also that I guess we're currently renegotiating or trying to renegotiate the USMCA, although I think we're talking to Mexico and not the Canadians at the moment. You would hope that in the outcome of all this, the Canadians would not unfairly target things in the United States like dairy and alcohol and motor vehicles. What was true remains true today. The president believes in his authority to tariff. He believes tariffs are not used enough. He believes tariffs give him economic leverage, but also diplomatic and negotiating leverage. I assume that's part of what's going on here as well. That was his attitude before. It's his attitude today, and I have no reason to believe he's ever going to change.
Unlike some of the tariffs last year that the court invalidated, I think correctly, it's pretty clear that he has the authority. This particular tariff is a legal tariff. It's a retaliatory tariff. It is true that Canada is imposing pretty high tariffs on the United States. And Trump's whole strategy, look, I'm a free trade guy. I'd love to see Canada, Mexico, and the United States be just one big free trade zone. But it is true that Canada is is discriminating against American products. And Trump has, for better or worse, and in some cases better, he has used America's leverage to force other countries like Canada to comply. The tariffs they put on American dairy products are outrageous. And I bet in the next 3 or 4 weeks, I'll bet you that Canada will back down here.
Well, that remains to be seen. That was Stephen Moore. He is a former White House economic advisor. You also heard Scott Jennings, senior political correspondent for CNN. That's what was on CNN in prime time. Not even Fox News, CNN. Mainstream, middle-of-the-road America tends to watch CNN, and that's how they get their information. That was the messaging that Americans were getting last night. And Americans are starting to get it, that Canada has been unfair on trade. That emboldens President Trump to go even harder after us when he's got the support of the American people behind him. Listen, we're playing games here, and there is a lot of jobs on the line, and our leaders have got to get this right. They've got to get it right, or a lot more Canadians are going to be out of work because of this, and our economy will continue to falter. We've got a 70-cent dollar again today, 70 cents U.S. We're in a recession. We don't exactly have a lot of arrows in the quiver here. We've got to get this right. And if that's the messaging that's going to mainstream America, then we're losing the battle here. Let's go to another voice that I want to hear from. He is an associate professor at Carleton University in the Sprott School of Business. His name is Ian Lee. This guy is one of the people that goes on network television to talk about the economy as he sees it. Again, he's a prof from Carleton University. Let's hear Ian Lee's perspective, a Canadian.
We will lose the automotive manufacturing industry. The president of that industry said only 2 weeks ago, if we don't have tariff-free access for exports of cars, manufactured cars, we are going to exit the industry like Australia did in 2017. So we must have an agreement with the United States with as few tariffs as possible. The U.S. is over 10 times larger. They're over 32 trillion GDP in U.S. dollars. We're about just over 2 trillion, 2.5 trillion in U.S. dollars. We are much more dependent when you look at the actual percentages of GDP. We are far more dependent on the United States than the United States is on us. That it is absolutely essential for Canada to negotiate a new trade agreement with the United States. It would be, I believe, catastrophic for Canada if we no longer had full tariff-free or mostly tariff-free access to the American market.
Scary stuff here, right? Holy cow. So now we've got the Prime Minister saying that we're going to get to the table and we're going to try and get a deal. You've now heard why we need a deal. You've now heard that there's politicians who are playing games here. And you've heard so far that the American people are starting to evolve. They're less sympathetic to Canadians and they're more in favor of what President Trump is doing to fix the trade imbalance between Canada and the USA. This isn't going well for us at the moment. And if we don't pivot and change our strategy, this is not going to go well. We've got two provinces, Alberta and Saskatchewan, who have chosen to be professional about this. They didn't ban U.S. alcohol. They're trying to show the Americans the value of dealing with Canada, the value of dealing with their provinces, at least, to get deals done for potash, for energy, and I mean LNG and oil, etc. They're trying to get a deal done, and they're not out there talking smack about President Trump or the Americans. But other premiers may see an opportunity here to exploit people's hatred of Donald Trump for their own political gain. You know who we should hear from now? Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew. Wab is a New Democrat, and Wab does not like Donald Trump, but he is one of the premiers of Canada.
And try to remind Americans that the cost of living is more expensive because of Donald Trump, because of his tariffs, and because of his war in Iran. We're going to continue using those tools that give us leverage, and the booze bans are one of those tools. Donald Trump has been so bad at managing the American economy. He's raised the price of gas with his war in Iran more than we could ever raise by changing our exports. So we just have to kind of choose our spots, pick our battles. So I think tools like the booze ban, maybe some other measures that the federal government wants to put on the table, I think those would be the places to look.
Is that helpful? Knowing what you think of Donald Trump and his personality, is poking the bear like that the best way to go? Taking personal shots. You don't hear shots like that coming from Alberta and Saskatchewan right now, but you do hear it from other provinces. I'm wondering what kind of a message that sends, and if it's really intended to speed up negotiations, or if they're just taunting the guy because it scores them political points with boomers here in Canada. Here's Doug Ford.
I guess I'm going to start off with President Trump. You know, we always say we can't keep rolling over for President Trump. We can't back down. We need a full Team Canada approach. Everything is on the table, but Ontario can't do it alone. We need the support. We need a plan from the Prime Minister to come in, and if these talks fail in 29 days, we need to hit them back as hard as we can. I'm tired of the bully trying to take our lunch money all the time. We always seem to be on our back heels. We need to be on the offense, not constantly on the defense with President Trump. We need to stand up to the bully, and we need to hit him tariff to tariff, all the way across the board. And that's my message to the Prime Minister. We need a plan moving forward.
Doug Ford calling for massive, massive, massive tax increases on Canadians. That's what he's calling for. Dollar for dollar, matching retaliatory tariffs. Hey, if we do that, if we impose new retaliatory tariffs on the Americans, that's a tax that Canadians pay. That's what a tariff is. We tariff somebody, we pay it. I don't think that that's necessarily the smartest game to be playing right now. A lot of tough talk out there in PEI. Sure. I just don't think that that's necessarily resonating with the president. Clearly it's not, if we're in the situation that we're in right now.
We have to hit back. We have to, rather than be on our back heel, as I said, we have to go forward, take the offense. We are an energy powerhouse. And we could dismantle the U.S. if we wanted to, if we all work together.
Dismantle them? What the hell is that? Where is that hyperbole coming from? That's unhinged. That is crazy talk. How do you think the American people are going to respond? And what are they going to think when they hear something like that? That we could dismantle America? They're proud people. They don't like being talked to like that. I don't know why we would talk like them about that. Dismantle them.
No matter if it's the electricity, and I'm not speaking for the other provinces, I'm going to be very clear. The potash, the oil, we're their number one customer in the world. They need to feel the pain rather than us constantly feeling the pain.
Whoa, 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 again. Is he threatening energy exports? Is he threatening America with we'll turn off the oil or we'll turn off the electricity? He didn't go that far, but it certainly sounded like that's the direction he was going. We need to inflict pain? Hey, listen, if the premiers want to talk to each other about that sort of thing in a strategy session, fine. I think that's a real dangerous game to be saying stuff like that on television, because that's going to circulate around America like wildfire. And they're only just casually paying attention to the Canada saga. They've got other problems that they're concerned with in America. So when they hear something like that, the premier of a province in Canada saying we need to inflict pain on America, holy, I feel like that's irresponsible. Rhetoric like that. I don't think that that's going to move the needle here in the way of getting a deal done. That sounded very, very ominous.
They need to feel the pain.
Wow. I'm actually shocked that the premier said that yesterday. We could dismantle them. They need to feel the pain. Man, oh man. Well, I'll tell you what, it didn't take long for that comment to start circulating in America, because yesterday afternoon, Premier Doug Ford made an appearance on Meet the Press, NBC. Listen to the Premier. They asked him about it.
And welcome back to the program. And joining me now is the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford. We appreciate your time today. Gorgeous backdrop. Good. That's probably good news for Canada there. You said earlier today, thank you, sir. You said that Canada is an energy powerhouse that could dismantle the U.S. if you wanted to, and that the U.S. needs to feel the pain. So I have to ask you, I know you're always complimentary about how you care about the American people and you're fond of the United States, but are you trying to inflict pain on Americans to make your point?
I would never do that. The president started this economic war against their closest friend and ally. Every Canadian, we love Americans. I love Americans, spent 20 years of my life there. But again, I differentiate between President Trump and the great American people. I believe in making a free and fair trade agreement, no different than what Ronald Reagan believed in. And every tariff he puts on Canada, it's a massive, massive tax on Americans. We're the number one customer. We buy more goods off the U.S. than any other jurisdiction in the world. Motor vehicles, we buy 400% more vehicles off the U.S. than any country in the world. I want a fair deal. I want prosperity. Americans want certainty. They want stability. And right now, when there's not certainty and stability, the investment is stalled. But when there's investment, we see investment and jobs and production and lower cost of goods. You see what's happening in the U.S. Cost of gas is going up. Cost of building homes, because he has tariffs on the softwood lumber. 33% of all the lumber you use is coming from Canada. Again, he's attacking Canada. And when you attack your closest friend and ally that's been shoulder to shoulder with you for over 200 years, fought wars together, that's unacceptable. We have to work together and make sure both countries prosper and thrive.
Before I play the rest of that exchange, I want to point out Doug Ford totally chickened out. Here he is on American television. He said it in Canada, in PEI. You just heard it a minute ago. We're going to inflict pain and we could dismantle America. Then he gets on U.S. television and gets asked directly about it and said, no, we're not going to do that.
So I have to ask you, I know you're always complimentary about how you care about the American people and you're fond of the United States, but are you trying to inflict pain on Americans to make your point?
I would never do that. The president started this economic war against their closest friend and ally.
I would never do that. You just said you wanted to do that. You were trying to organize all the premiers to get together and do that. I don't understand why he didn't double down. If he wants to inflict pain, as he said, those were his words. If he wants to do that, why doesn't he just double down and say, America, buckle up, because Canada's coming for you. We're going to dismantle you. Why doesn't he just say it like that? Because you know what? Those were his words. That's how some of the premiers in Canada are talking. Some of them. You know what? Let me give you one more. Here is BC Premier David Eby yesterday.
The one way to embolden a bully is to capitulate. And I don't think we should embolden Mr. Trump, who clearly is a bully.
Okay, we're calling him names. And you know what? He probably is a bully. He's being a bully to try and get what he wants. Even if you agree with the sentiment, you don't call people names. Sometimes you got to deal with people that you don't like because that's how business gets done. Can we please be just a little professional about this? Professionalism is all I want. And some premiers just don't seem to get it. You know who does get it, though? I mentioned him earlier. Give him a shout out again. Alberta and Saskatchewan seem to understand the importance of working this out and professionally negotiating a deal, peer to peer, neighbor to neighbor, ally to ally, without all the rhetoric and name calling and threats. You know what professional sounds like? Here is Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe.
The goal is to have a reviewed and renewed CUSMA arrangement. And so we need to set aside some of what's on social media. We need to set aside as, I think, subnational and ultimately as national negotiators that are at the table and negotiate a reviewed deal. The path forward and the conclusion of all of this isn't going to happen on social media. And it isn't, in fairness, going to happen in the public sphere. It's going to happen at the negotiating table. And that's why my advice to the federal government, and I'll be bringing that to all the tables that I have the opportunity to be a part of over the next few days, is for Ambassador Wiseman, Janice Charest. We have a good negotiating team there led by Dominic LeBlanc, is to engage ambitiously and vigorously with this U.S. administration, because at the end of the day, they need a renewed agreement as well. And we need to realize that. They need a renewed agreement as well. And in fact, as we look into the future, they need to do more trade. They need to bring in more products, both ways, in fairness, from Canada into the U.S. When we talk about energy security in the U.S. and in Canada, it is going to mean that we're going to be producing more energy products across this nation, providing them to our allies in the U.S. and other allies around the world. We need to increase the level of oil production we have. We need to make it available, yes, on the West Coast to nations around the world, but we also are going to have to produce more oil to make it available to American families and an American industry as well.
Great words there from Scott Moe. Stop this social media nonsense, because the deal will get done at the negotiating table. That's the plan. That's the path. We can create all this energy and we can share it with you. Scott Moe is absolutely right. He's got the uranium and the potash in Saskatchewan. Alberta's got the oil. We've got a lot more to offer than that, though. If we sit down and work out a comprehensive deal with the Americans on everything, and maybe we're going to have to let more of their dairy into Canada. Maybe they'll buy more of our softwood lumber. There's deals to be done in every sector.
Tariffs, you increased the tariffs on Canada yesterday. Can you say if you still expect to impose tariffs on the wildfire problem? And can you say when you might impose 301?
A lot of damage has been done. They're not managing their forests properly. And the wind has a tendency to blow right over New York City, right over. You saw Detroit, they had to close the whole place. Michigan was really affected. They had to close businesses for 4 days. It's very serious what they're doing. And they don't seem to be able to do anything about it. If they managed their forests, they wouldn't have the fires.
The wildfires are another thing that are on the minds of the American people. Now, I think what the president said there is completely inappropriate. Yes, we do need to do more to get these fires under control and to mitigate the risk of fires going forward. But, he can't say we're that bad at managing the forests when he's got hundreds of forests on fire in America as well. This is a problem. We need to figure out how to solve it. And, if we negotiate out a great deal, maybe we could have a North American firefighting force with Americans and Canadians and all the water bombers you can imagine and helicopters and what have you. There's a deal to be done. We've got to work together. That's hypocritical of him to call out our forest management. I mean, he's right, but he's got the same problem down there, too.
Last night, the Canada tariffs. What are those a response to the wildfires in?
No. That's separate. We're looking at that separately.
And what is there anything Canada
It's only
can do?
response to the way they've treated our farmers and our people. Canada's been very, very tough on us over the years, for many years, and no other president's done anything about it. I love Canada. I love the people of Canada. Many friends that live in Canada, but their leadership, from Trudeau to the current leadership. In all fairness to them, they need us to survive. Without us, there's no way they can survive. But they've been very, very tough over a period of the last 50 years, actually.
Okay, that is Donald Trump's perspective. I have no commentary to offer there because everyone is going to form their own opinion on what he just said. Earlier I was talking about how it's not helpful that we've got certain premiers here in Canada that do nothing but take pot shots and personal shots at Donald Trump himself, constantly trying to get under his skin. I don't think that's the right approach, and I want to give you a great example of why I don't think that's a good approach. This is the president of Lebanon yesterday when he met with President Trump in the Oval Office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've been looking forward to this visit for a long time.
Thank you very much.
Meeting such a great president like yourself.
That's a very nice thing. See, he knows how to get to me. He can have anything. Now he can have anything.
All I'm saying is something that we all know. You attract more flies with honey than with vinegar. And maybe a smart negotiation tactic would be to stop making this personal, start treating this as a business transaction, and start being professional. Friends, it continues to evolve. Tomorrow, third straight episode on this topic and whatever else comes up in the next 24 hours. Have yourselves a great day. I'll catch you right back here on the next episode of Scott Fox After 9. Oh,